Thank you for coming back to my channel. I am in passion number 5, and in passion number 5, I want to encourage people to start looking at the aspects of how we live our lives, and it will mix somewhat with religion and it will mix with government. But I need you to start changing your thinking so that the things we think are the things we want to happen. And hopefully, after enough people think the same way, it will actually become a reality. Life is a journey. We aren't born knowing everything, and we have to learn as we go. But as we learn that it is more beneficial to work with other people and contribute with what they're trying to do than to try to take away something that we're too lazy to create ourselves, is the opposite of what's going to make things work well. During the entire trading time of the Philistines, they were able to share the wealth with everyone they traded with, so everyone prospered. And even to this day, we have people that are referred to as the gypsies, who are people who are traveling, who try to offer a service from what they have to offer. And sometimes they'll take commodities with them. And that group of people was created by the people that had carts or wagons and lived in those wagons around the Black Sea and traded with the Amazon women, who were the hunters and gatherers, and probably collected some of the gold that they had from their campfires and some of the furs that they got from the animals, so that when they would get back to the more populated areas, they could trade those items as well. So trading is a major commodity that has been happening way longer than I thought we were farmers. I thought that when the first 5 books of the Bible were written, we were just moving from hunters and gatherers to farming. And it's only since I found out about the Philistines during the pandemic that I realized I was totally wrong. Was over 80 years old. So that just tells you we're never going to be too old to continue learning. There is a lot that's gone on. There's a lot for us to know. There's a lot that is right, and there are some things that are wrong. And what we have to start learning to do now, to think things need to be so that they will basically go back to what the Philistines showed us worked better than what we have now. Now, we do have a combination, because the murder and mayhem years have caused a growth in religion, because religion is the thing that explains to human beings why things are happening to them that they would not want God to do to them. They consider them a negative thing, and it's probably negative things that are being created by other human beings. Now, I know that in my Christian growth, I've had Christians that say that there is no devil, there is no Satan. God created everything, and he didn't create anything bad. I did not agree with those people for many, many years, but I do understand their thinking. And I'm not even going to say at this point that I have an opinion about whether Satan exists or does not exist. I can understand if he does exist, why he might. I can understand if he doesn't exist, why the bad things that happen to people are so bad. They have to have a reason for making sense out of it. And one reason for making sense is to think there are demons that are as powerful or almost as powerful as God, and that's why the bad things happen. Now, we don't have to act like I'm making something up. All we have to do is look at history and see that people used to have bowls with writings in them to scare off demons. And they would bury these bowls around their dwelling so they could keep the demons away from their dwelling. Now, does that mean there are demons? No. It means they believe there are demons. But I don't believe everything that is perfect, and all the perfect thinking is not in my brain. I don't give anyone else the satisfaction of thinking they're perfect as well. I look at them as they are lacking perfection. So, since I think ahead of time, everyone needs to grow, I always take with a bit of reservation what anyone tells me he thinks, because a lot of times people tell me things, and those things are exactly what I thought in the past. I have thought a lot of things since I was converted at 9 years old, and I've already told you that one of the first things the Lord told me is I don't want you to be a preacher or a teacher. And I knew in a Southern Baptist church that was against the tunnel vision that they saw the world. And by tunnel vision, I mean from their point of view, if I did not believe I was going to be a preacher or teacher, I wasn't really a Christian. So I've had to endure a lot of thinking in my life that made me wonder what it was that God really wanted me to do. And I have to admit that I was probably 40 years old, which was the average lifespan of people up to 1700. So during most of the history of human beings on the face of the planet, I didn't even have a clear understanding of what God called me to do until after they had already died. I cannot have an opinion about how they're going to be judged because I've had a lot longer to figure it out than they have. I have to admit I'm a little slow on the uptake, so I'm glad that the Lord brought me into this world when I had enough time in life that I could come to some truthful revelations. And as I have said before, I think God is truth and God is love. If I can come up with anything that makes me more loving, particularly to other human beings, male and female alike. And I have to admit, I have a tendency to give women a lot more slack because I am sexually attracted to women a lot more than I am men, even though the sexual attraction that caused me to have that feeling has been long gone. But the carryover of liking women still pervades my thinking, and I would rather spend my time with a woman anytime than spending it with a male. So that is my own individual personality. I'm not saying it's the right way, and I'm not saying it's a wrong way. I'm just saying that God did not make us all the same. He made us all different. We're all like snowflakes. We all have different opinions, and one of my opinions controls the way that I live and think and act. And that's also true with everyone else. That's why I like to understand people. When they tell me their opinions, they're telling me pretty much how I can count on the way they're probably going to act. Now, like I said, I'm not a perfect person, so I don't know it all. Sometimes they end up acting in a way that surprises me, and usually it's for the good. Once in a while, people do surprise me and do things that I can't understand how they got off the right track and ended up taking such a turn in life that I know is going to cause them nothing but grief and destruction. But some human beings choose to go that way, and I don't have control of their life. I have enough to do just taking care of the one that God gave me, which is taking care of myself. So I try to mind my own business as much as I can and only interfere with what I have to when things have to be changed. And right now, things have to be changed because we have in America a lot more rich people and a lot more poor people than we do what we would refer to as the middle class. And the middle class are the people that spend what they're able to earn and they continue to buy what they can afford to buy so their life will be better. So the middle class is the group of people that doesn't have a lot of money saved, and they do have some of the needs met that they can afford. And it is a large middle class that the Philistines not only had, but promoted throughout the world. Every civilization that they ran into, they tried to promote. We'll all be better off if we get along, make agreements. If we have disagreements, let's work out those disagreements. Let's not fight about it. Fighting only causes destruction. There is never a reason to fight. If you have to fight, there is only one time that it's ever acceptable. And that is why you're defending yourself against an aggressor. Now, are there going to be aggressors? Yes, there are. The horsepower engine that God created males with is going to guarantee that no human being is going to live on this planet and not face an aggressor someplace in his life, his individual situation. He's going to face an aggressor. The more he knows how to deal with that aggressor, and the more his government is in a psychological mood to put aggressors under authority of the law enforcement, if necessary, to stem his aggression. Does that mean that every aggressor needs to be punished? Not necessarily. Sometimes we're aggressing when we don't even know it. Now, I've said before, I feel I know how to help someone build a spaceship. We would go out into space. We could go out not having the attitude we wanted to hurt anyone or anything, but we could probably totally destroy many things that we just aren't aware that our actions would be destroying them. So we have to learn the world, we have to learn the universe as we stretch out, and we have to know what is good for everyone, including ourselves, but also for the environment around us and what we can do about it. Now, I live in America at a time that many, many people use the idea of saving the planet and saving the universe as a ruse to get authority over individuals. All it is in most cases is the horsepower engine running amok and trying to figure out ways to subjugate other human beings. That's something that every human being is probably going to have to face at some point in his life. We have to have enough intelligence to know when they're feeding us a line that should not be followed, or why they're telling us something can actually make a difference. And most of the time, we aren't able to make a difference with hardly anything, because God is ruling everything, and God had this earth going for 3.5 billion years, and Homo sapiens have not been here for 500,000 years. So we are a very small experiment for God in whether we're going to step up to the plate and do the things that will make us survive, or that we're retarded enough that we get taken out like the Philistines. The Philistines just did not know the power of volcanoes. And that lack of knowledge incinerated over 90% of the nation. The tidal wave that was created got rid of most of the rest of them, and less than 1% of them, I'm sure, more than 99% of them were eliminated from the earth. Now, the few that were left was enough to make 5 cities up next to Israel, and they continued on doing what they had learned to do, which was try to be able to create things. And I have said before, the first things that humans ever created was bronze. In some ways, that may be true or may not be true, because olive oil is just created by squeezing an olive. Now, is that creation? Well, not necessarily. All you're doing is squeezing something that already exists to get the oil out of it. But we learned by doing some activities, we can get a benefit from using things that we don't have to make. Now, the people that traded olive oil, they could use olive oil to burn. They could use olive oil for healing. They used olive oil for many, many things. It was a commodity, but it wasn't a commodity that I'm aware of that would have to be created. Created is taking things on the earth that does not exist and by combining the things that don't exist, we can make things to exist. Now, creation also is the invention of the atomic and the hydrogen bomb. So, since God wanted us to be creative, those are things that God wanted us to know as well. Now, do they have a purpose? Yes. If we had an asteroid headed for the Earth and it was going to maybe destroy every human being on the face of the planet or destroy enough of them that human beings may not survive, God wants us to have the intelligence to go to that asteroid when it's far enough out, put several hydrogen bombs on it, blow them up all at the same time, and disintegrate that asteroid so that it will not adversely affect the Earth to the extent that it would have in destroying a lot of the people. So God has given us this power so we can save lives, not so we can destroy each other. So every time you use one of the powers that God has given us to help other people, you're doing God's will. When you use one of those powers to destroy people, you are not doing God's will. In the Bible, we talk a lot about the destruction of Jericho. I like to tell the Israeli people, you don't have to feel guilty about your predecessors destroying that. They just told the story they did to make their horsepower engines seem more powerful, because Jericho was destroyed several hundred years before Joshua ever got there. And at the time Joshua got there, it was uninhabited. Now, I know that the writing indicates a woman coming from there that was in the line of David. Well, things are made up, and maybe she was living there, because hunters and gatherers have to have places to live. Also, herdsmen have to have a place to get out of the weather. Now, most of them have tents. And when people say, oh, we can't find any archaeology of Saul, well, King Saul was a king of herdsmen. You all had tents. You moved around. You didn't need the cities. The ones that were close enough to the Philistines realized there was a benefit to farming, but they needed to have something to supplement the farming. So they did hurting as well. Now, I know that we have a situation that's a problem. That's one of the reasons I'm doing these videos. One of the things we have to make sure we do, and it should have been done yesterday, is make sure we get the women to be equal. Now, all you guys start thinking that way. Make my wife equal, make my sister equal, make every female equal with men. What does that look like? I can't help you. I don't know. I did not treat my wife as an equal. As I look back on it, I know I wasn't nearly as good a husband as I thought I was at the time, and I am sorry for that. And the only way I know to make up for it is to be that much nicer to women that don't deserve it. So if a woman treats me not as well as I think I should be treated, I'm going to overlook a lot of it. And I'm going to overlook it because I did not treat my wife as well as I realize now I should have treated her. She was an equal to me, and I never, ever treated her that way. I treated her like she was my boss, but it was only because she was given a higher IQ. I had a lower IQ, and therefore I would have to take orders from her. And she did know a lot. My family would have been better off probably if I'd listened to her more than I did, but at least we did have a good life. I did love her, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm still married to her, and I've explained already why, and that is a religious thing for me. And another religious thing for me is the way that I treat women now. I know it's something that God wants me to do, and that's why God has given me this desire to know women. Do I think women know all the answers about love? No, I do not. Just like all men don't know all the answers about horsepower engines. Men go off the deep end with their horsepower engines. Women get skewed with their ideas about love. When God did create women, he did, as far as I know now, created a love engine. And I want to have as much relationship with as many love engines as I can so that I can adjust my thinking so that I'm consistent with what God created me to be. Thank you for coming to Passion 5. I'm going to end it at this time. This will be the end of Passion 5, and I will see you again on Passion 6. Thank you for coming to my channel.